Many people have tried to put the difficulty of learning Yu-Gi-Oh into words, so why don't we try painting a picture? You'll often hear Yu-Gi-Oh compared to fighting games, and you might think, just like a fighting game, each player wields a chosen skill set, either character or deck, and utilizes their unique skill sets and combos to gain an edge in a match. Well, no. The similarity is the shared experience of getting bodied after jumping into your first ranked game by Bronze Bozo 39. No, the fighting game analogy falls apart when you consider the knowledge barrier in Yu-Gi-Oh! In fighting games, it doesn't take that long to find out why you're getting whooped. This move comes out too fast. That move's got range. You'll be able to see it after getting hit with a move for the 13th time. In Yu-Gi-Oh, the win condition is often tied to the game plan and not actually hitting your opponent. The reason you're losing to Adamanticators is not that they have a bunch of hard-hitting synchros, but instead that you let them resolve Block Dragon, you bumbling buffoon. But therein lies the issue. The modern archetype and its consequences have been a disaster for the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes have been central to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Since GX, and by no exaggeration, are fundamental to the identity of the game. Unfortunately, it contributes heavily to the knowledge barrier and the lack of gameplay carryover. You could hide away your firstborn son teaching him Yu-Gi-Oh! From the ground up, playing exclusively tier limit mirrors, requiring the most technically demanding understanding of Yu-Gi-Oh! To thrive, and he'll have no idea how to navigate a branded combo. I liken Yu-Gi-Oh! To learning a MOBA like Dota 2, where each hero analogs to a deck. In Dota, a good goal to strive for is to kill your opponents, but not this guy when his bell rings and he flashes blue where killing him only heals him. Similarly, if you dismiss normal monster effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! As weak filler, you'd mostly be right, but try saying that to this guy's face. Like a MOBA, your first impression of the game is being thrown into a lobby with 9 characters you've never seen before, and having to speed read abilities to not get left behind. It really mirrors the panic of reading through a 20-card combo with 0 cards you've seen before. As a Master Duel only player, even I start sweating when a new set releases, as I hastily pull up hand-trap spreadsheets lest I look a fool against the new kids on the block. And that's why MOBAs are going in my S tier of arbitrary, argumentative Yu-Gi-Oh! Game comparisons. There are some elements that can help to alleviate the knowledge barrier. I think games like Master Duel need to have tutorials or spotlights on extremely common cards and card types like hand traps and board breakers. I'm really starting to sound like those "we need to learn taxes in high school" guys, but I think learning the dueling language like hard once per turn and even fan terms like garnets could really help ease people into Yu-Gi-Oh! Though they still won't help you learn DDD. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has often been criticized for being a very wordy game, with bloated card text and a lack of keywords being an easy punching bag for detractors of the game. Extremely important French mathematician Blaise Pascal once wrote, "If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter," explaining the difficulty of crafting concise language. Yu-Gi-Oh! Replied with, "Screw that, we ball." Despite being a game renowned for its novel-like descriptions of what each card does, the actual mechanisms for resolving that card are not well explained, and even worse, the text often leads to more confusion. Here's a non-effect monster with no effect. Here's an effect monster with an effect. But be careful, because half of his effect is not an effect, it's a cost. Traptrix Sarah is immune to trap effects, so you'd imagine that she's immune to trap cards like Skill Drain. You'd be wrong. Sometimes. The worst example, summoning under cards like Rivalry of Warlords, which says that each player can only control one monster type. Well, if you control a warrior and you try to sacrifice that warrior for a fiend, you'll find that you can't. Despite the fact that even in a simulator like Master Duel, you can visually see your own monster being thrown into the vast abyss as a sacrifice to fulfill your sick and twisted summoning ritual. The game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Will not allow you to make that summon because you control a warrior. Now I know, at the end of the day, you gotta read the rules. All games have rules, even Go Fish. But you just fell for my audience impersonation transition tactic. As someone who has only learned the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Above a playground level with the release of Master Duel, one thing that's always bugged me is the lack of resources for learning the game rules. We live in the information age. Everything you could possibly ever be interested in is available at a quick Google search, and yet, Yu-Gi-Oh! Stands alone as a game where it's nearly impossible to find the correct information. Personal example, yeah? I was looking to play the card Simorgh Onslaught. This card has the quirky combo of having two effects, one from the hand and one engrave, on a card that says you can only activate one Simorgh Onslaught per turn. Now, I had seen cards that said you can only use one card effect per turn and only once that turn, but this was different. Could I use both effects in one turn? Is the graveyard effect count as an activation? So naturally, I went up and looked up the phrase, can only activate this card once per turn. And all the Reddit posts talked about were nuances of when you negate activations and effects of cards with activation and effect restrictions. I opened the Wikipedia result and read through this article, but ran in a circle as the example it uses is Spellbook of Power, which only has one effect. The Yu-Gi-Oh fandom straight up lied to me as it states that this condition is only found on spells and traps, and only those which are one-time use. The fact that I could visit 3 separate resources and come out none the wiser is really disheartening. To this day, I'm still unaware of any reliable source of information, often relying on recreating the situation in Master Duel and reverse engineering an answer. So can anything be done? I genuinely think Yu-Gi-Oh's appeal is the lawyer-like gameplay where obscure court case rulings make for genuine outplay. Archetypes make establishing gameplay patterns hard, but creates gameplay diversity unlike any other. And, well, there really should be better learning resources, like an improved tutorial on Master Duel. At the end of the day, experience is the best teacher with a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Until you experience one bad day, then you're out of here. S tier of arbitrary argumentative Yu-Gi-Oh game comparisons.